So I had a question come in about new practice startup or buying an existing practice. This is a dentist who reached out to us. Actually, it doesn't really matter where they are because what I'm going to tell you would apply wherever you're located. And so the question is, should I buy a new practice or should I start an existing practice? And if I bought an existing practice, would I buy an old practice or a new practice? How many ops would be ideal? And there are some more questions here. Specifically, what should be looked at when buying a practice? What should be thought about if I'm starting a practice? Let's talk about this because there's a lot here. So first of all, would I buy a practice if I don't own a practice right now? Would I buy one that is running, or would I start one from scratch? Okay, these are very different animals, obviously. So the first thing I would tell you is it completely depends on the dentist. It completely depends on your background. If I'm a brand new dentist, zero experience or minimal experience, just associated for a year or two, I would not open a new practice. I would not, because you need a track record. You have to have, like, the most successful startups that I see are dentists who have already refined a few things, okay? Like, I'm talking 3 to 5 years experience under your belt before I would even consider a startup, because there's so much competition now, there's so much risk that it would be a far more reliable outcome for you as a practice owner to buy something that's already running with cash flow. And you might say, well, I'm going to spend, this much money to buy a practice and this much to build it. It's actually less money to build it. Yeah, but if you build it without income, you got a problem. Cash flow is going to eat up real fast whatever loans you have, whatever line of credit you have. So if I'm in that boat, I'm buying a practice. I buy one that's running. Now, what do I buy? Well, an older practice, sure, it's going to be cheaper, but you might have some issues there where you got to plan on capital expenditures. You got to plan on, possibly some, philosophical differences, let's say, with the exiting dentist, whatever that looks like. And of course, I would not buy a practice and kick the other dentist out. You want them to stick around for at least 6 months for continuity to keep patients, right? Now, if I had to pick between an old practice and a new practice, I would generally lean towards a $1 million practice with lots of room for growth. What does that mean? I'm looking for specifically space, because that's going to be the biggest headache. If I buy a $1 million office with 3 operatories, I'm just always going to be struggling, because you could do better. Like, I'd be finding something with minimum 4 chairs. To me, I like 5, 6. 6, 7 is even better. So if I could find a practice that is, newer and has the capacity to grow into the space, so maybe they're doing 1.2, 1.5. It's not ideal. There's obviously going to be a lot of growth needed there, but there's unrealized revenue potential in the space that's there. So I know I don't have big capital expenditures coming up in the future. Now, that's kind of an aside, because the biggest issue in either case is if you have no idea what you're doing, that's a different problem altogether. Now, this person reached out to us and said, basically, I want to work with you guys. I just want to know what structure to work in, which is smart, because if you don't know what you're doing, any of those paths can lead to failure. If you do know what you're doing, any of those paths can lead to success, okay? Because I've seen all of that with our clients and personally. I know what that looks like, okay? Now, the biggest gap here is, and we have a testimonial online that you can watch, was myself. I interviewed Dr. Ali, one of our clients, and he did a startup from scratch, and he crushed it out of the gate. But what he did was he literally started our program 2 years before he opened the practice, and he had all his ducks in a row on opening day. He had a solid team trained and ready to go. He had patients booked. He had the experience rehearsed and down, so that his first patients became referral sources. Like, if you hit it like that, then yeah, you're going to be successful, okay? But if you just show up and say, yeah, I'm a dentist, dental office, here's my sign, and yeah, that's not going to work the way you think it's going to work. If you don't have leadership already sorted out, and systems in place, and training for the team happening, and a marketing strategy, you're going to get beat up pretty fast in any of those scenarios. So again, you want to have someone in your corner that can help steer you and guide you. Maybe it's the dentist whose practice you're buying can fill that role for you for a time. Maybe it makes sense to work with someone like us, what we do. That may make sense. But again, this is why this question is coming in, because this person is saying, I get it. I don't want that outcome. So, granted, I want to work with you. What should I do? So all that aside, now, what am I looking for? So because I know we can grow practices, my biggest concern always for dentists is cash flow. Just make sure that you have enough cash flow to do what you want to do. Even to hire us, do the math. Make sure it makes sense, because, if you're going to do a startup and you don't have the capital to back that, you're going to run out of money, and that's going to be problematic, because then, you do the math, right? No one wants to run out of cash. So if you buy a practice that is already cash flow positive, and then, you take on some debt to do it, but you're still cash flow positive after the debt, good problem, right? Now you got to do the math on, can I keep the current dentist on as an associate? And if yes, for how long? I want to know that math before I buy the practice, because maybe flipping that owner dentist to an associate and then me trying to work, well, that flips the overhead such that now I'm underwater. I got to see that coming, right? So you got to look at it as any other buyer would look at a business and any other business. What's my cash flow going to look like if the dentist stays as an associate? How long can I keep them before I need to move on? And is that going to work for my plan? So there's pros and cons to both. Now, if I have some experience and I'm comfortable biting off a startup, that's great, and we can guide on that too. But what I'm looking for there is, it's really just about the experience. It's about the, in fact, we're doing a workshop in 2 weeks called The Emotional Advantage. The most current issue of our magazine, I put a lot of content in about this, because it's really just, it's the key. It's the differentiator today. It is the thing that people write books about still today because it works today. It's a thing that hasn't died. It wasn't a gimmick. It's always been that a 10-star experience when everyone else is aiming for 5-star, it's just a differentiator, and it always will be. And that's that. All right, so if you have questions about, what should I do? Where am I? I'm not ready to hire you guys yet, but I'm there. I'm getting there. I just don't know what to do yet. Reach out, talk to our team, and we'll be happy to give you some direction and see what makes sense for you. And eventually, if we work together, that's great. And if not, hopefully we can at least set you on the right path. So hopefully that helps.